Hello and welcome to the Healthy Business Podcast. I'm joined by the wonderful Wendy Higuera today, and we're going to be talking all things self-care and the importance as women who are juggling all the things, whether that is business, whether that's children, whether that's something else. There's always those plates to juggle. So I am joined by the wonderful Wendy, who runs Selfcare with Wendy. And I'm so excited about this conversation. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had probably many times over, and we'll pick out a whole load of golden nuggets from this conversation. So I hope you enjoy listening to it. Wendy, good to see you.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm very excited to talk to you about all things self-care.
Oh, me too. I love it. It's such an important part, especially as well as women, as business owners, and something that I think most people put to the bottom of the to-do list. So tell me first off, what does a healthy business mean to you? And then we can delve into everything from there.
So ultimately, for me, a healthy business actually means a healthy business owner, because without the owner, without the person running the show being able to be there and support the business, then there is no business. So it's really, really important, in my opinion, to really look after our health as well as our business health, so that our businesses can thrive.
Oh, I love that. So aligned to my thinking too, and really kind of speaks to what the Healthy Business Podcast is all around, having the health of the business owner, the health of the business, and being really intrinsic with that. And obviously you take a bit of a self-care spin on things. So I would love to bust the myth really to start with of actually what self-care is, because I think so many people think that it's having that bubble bath or booking the spa day, but actually it's so much more than that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what I call the manicure and prosecco effect, where those things are great, and yes, sometimes those things are needed, and like a quick pick me up, it's great. But what I when I speak about self-care, what I actually mean is is the journey of rediscovering exactly your health, how you should feel, how you could feel so much better. Uh, Managing stress, maybe nutrition, feeding, fueling yourself so that you're able to function at your most optimum level, resting. All the boring stuff that we know we should be doing, but we always put to the back of the list.
I find it fascinating that people do. And I think you're right. We all know we should be doing it, right? But it's the when we're busy and we're so focused on results and looking after the kids and all the other stuff, it's us that kind of gets put to the bottom of that list. But actually, to be focused on the results, to be able to look after the family, to be able to care for other people outside of that space, to look after your clients, that has to come from you. And I think that's the piece that people not necessarily miss, but kind of don't necessarily put as much significance on.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And because, generally we're mums, we're very busy, we're business owners, we have all these balls to juggle, and we genuinely do not have time. So we go for the quick fix, the quick instant gratification, and the things like fitness or personal development that aren't so instant, that take a while. They're kind of put off and put off um, until you get to the point where you can't put it off anymore. And what I hope to do is to help those women not get to that point, to not get to total burnout.
Yeah, it's so important. And I think, and we'll delve into all of that. I'd love to hear a little bit of your story because I think it's really important with these kind of discussions that I never want them to come across as kind of preachy or anything like that. And I think I've hit burnout. I know what it feels like. And I know you've been in a similar space as well. And I think a lot of us that really care about it have been in that situation where everything has crumbled around us and we've crumbled too. And actually, if we can have these conversations and almost catch some people before they fall, that becomes really important for me. And I know that's something important to you. So tell us a little bit about your journey and how you kind of came into the world of self-care with Wendy.
Well, So actually, initially I thought it was only a journey of about 6 or 7 years, but having kind of really delved in and thought about it, I remember the first time I went to the doctors and I was diagnosed with depression. I was 16 years old. I think I had just
Wow.
turned 16. And at the time it was kind of brushed off as, it's just a phase, you're just being a bit lazy, you're just being a bit sad, it's teenage hormones, etc., etc. um, and throughout my childhood and my adolescence into my early adulthood, that was kind of the feeling that stuck with me. It was like, well, this isn't real, this is just me being weak, just press on. Coupled with kind of stressing so much about the kids, the mental load, the children, full-time job, finances,
Yeah.
husband, all the stuff.
Not at
And for
16, right?
no, no,
But
no.
as that kind of journey carried through.
Like early adulthood.
But I think it's
So
important though, isn't it, that actually whatever age you are, you can have these experiences. It's not just something that, we've kind of talked about it being mums or business owners, but actually I think being aware of those warning signs is really important. So yeah, it can hit at whatever age. So I think that's a really key thing to
yeah,
say.
absolutely. It can definitely hit at whatever age. And I think having gone through my whole process and having a teenage daughter, I can see how that can be passed on, because I see her copying some of my habits. And now as an adult, I can see how my family have these traits of women are super strong, women don't fall, women are like, my nan is like the godfather of our family, so the women don't crumble. So it wasn't until I guess it was years and years and years of sustained stress, unmanaged stress, anxiety, and it just started to impact my body physically. My mind was shutting down. I was having a mental breakdown. My hormones were all over the place, and I just could not function as as a mom, as a sister, as a human, as anything. So that's how I kind of got to the total burnout point. I remember once my auntie saying to me, you are so strong that you pick up everybody else, but nobody will be strong enough to pick you up when you fall. And that was literally about a month before I ended up being hospitalized. And that just kind of
Mm.
stuck with me. And the day I went into hospital was the day that I drew a line under the sand, and that's when I genuinely started my journey.
It's amazing. It's given me tingles actually just hearing it again. And we've been working together for a little while and I've heard this journey several times, but I think it's, none of us think it's going to happen to us, do we? And I think there is something in that space as, maybe it's society that we kind of live in of the women can have it all. But actually what that means is then it's we've got to buckle up and get on with life. And I think that's the hard bit because, or actually the hardest bit is to ask for support and have that awareness. But when we're feeling it inside and we're wearing this mask of everything's fine, I'm okay, I'm strong, I can do this, because that's that expectation. And that's sometimes the role that we've created within our families. And actually, when something does go slightly off or we start feeling a little bit off, to have that conversation can feel really hard because, like, as you say, you've always been there to pick it up for everyone else. They come to you for those things, not you going to them, and they don't know how to react when you're like, actually, hey, this is going on for me too. And it's just, yeah, but you'll be fine because you've always been fine. And I
Absolutely. So
think this,
yeah, always labeled in my family as the strong one, the one that can do everything. Um, but and I kind of wore that like a badge of honor, like,
yeah,
I'm the strong one. I help everybody else, all whilst really struggling day to day. Things like being on autopilot, not remembering how I got to places because my mind was just so full of everything I was doing for everybody else, whether the kids had their PE kit, whether lunch, dinner, did I hoover the floor? Did I all of that
yeah,
stuff on top of running a business as a self-employed entrepreneur. It was just the load of everything was too much. And I'm actually extremely lucky that I have a very supportive partner. And my husband is like a domestic goddess. I'm really, really lucky in that sense. So I can only but imagine those people that don't have that support.
And I mean, we laugh about it all the time, I think, as women, that, you know, how many tabs do we have open? Like it's constant, isn't it? There's always something that's going on. And add that into business life and wanting to get results. There's so many things. Our to-do list is never ending. And I think it can feel hard to kind of have that mirror reflection sometimes. And I want to delve into that a little bit around actually what are some of the warning signs? What are some of the things that if people, because I remember going to the doctors very similar and they were like, you're just a busy mum, like kind of crack on, like this is life. This is what you signed up for. And going, is this really what it's like? And that kind of question. And I think it was the dismissiveness that actually got me to question things rather than going, actually, this is normal. But yeah, I'd love to, like, what do you, from your working with your clients, like what are the kind of common words that people are using or triggers? Because I'd love, like, if you're listening to this and just thinking, oh, maybe I am on that road to burnout, I hadn't really realized that before. I'd love to kind of just build that awareness as just to, you know, without judgment, as to what people might feel if they
Yeah.
are kind of moving towards that burnout space. Because I think that's sometimes like, oh, well, that's never going to happen to me, I'm fine, I'll crack on. but it's not always like that.
Absolutely. And actually a saying that is in my family, and I've heard it like so many times since I was little, was you'll have enough time to rest when you're dead. And I'm like, but I don't want to rest when I'm dead. I want to rest
Yeah,
now. So I guess the most impactful kind of symptom that kind of made me stop was the forgetfulness, the brain fog, the just not being able to think and focus. So I was kind of on autopilot a lot of the time, just putting one foot in front of the other, doing my life on autopilot. It was just like that. I was totally disassociated, not even, I was present in body, but not present in mind, in anything. I was there, but not there. That was the hardest one to manage. Other symptoms, physical symptoms like really, really dry skin, acne breakouts, those kinds of things, stomach issues, bloatedness, hormone issues. You know, my cycle was all over the place, and actually that led to hormonal growths within cyst growths within my body. I had to have one removed because of the constant stress, and the adrenals were just all over the place. But yeah, just feeling like you're running up a like running up escalators going the opposite direction. That is really the
that's a good
feeling, like you're
description.
trying and you just can't make it.
It is fascinating, I think, isn't it? And I think I wonder if you know, we're all women of a certain age, right? And I wonder if that sort of the brain fog and, you know, hormonal changes and cycle changes, like that can be, you know, it is symptoms of kind of perimenopause as well. And I think it's you know, going to the doctors is obviously the first place, but actually, you know, that can get dismissed, or you can kind of be not necessarily misdiagnosed, but actually, I think because there's still so much stigma, for want of a better word, around what burnout is, and actually it's just, we've got to get on with it, that actually it could potentially get misdiagnosed as well, and then you end up, you know, being put on different things or medications that actually can have a, you know, a more of a negative. So it's a minefield, isn't it? Being a woman is a minefield, let's be honest.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like my experience of the doctors, for example, you go, you explain. I mean, I've been several times over the years. I explain what's going on with me, and I'm just given some tablets, some medication to go off and take, and that's it. There is no real root, like delving into the root of the cause. And kind of it took for me to take control of that and advocate for myself, and to heal myself in a sense. Like, obviously I have used the help of medication, I have used the help of therapy, I have used, but I've incorporated it into my life in a way where I'm just constantly on this journey to feel better, get better, and yeah, and progress, and get myself back, which is what I feel I definitely lost in that, the trenches of motherhood, when I was completely burnt out.
Yeah, and it is a hard one, and I think it's, you know, and I'm not saying don't go to the doctors at all, because they are, you know, a brilliant first step. But I think, as you said, like having these kind of conversations hopefully builds a bit of awareness that actually there's a lot that we can do ourselves. And, you know, and I know you talk about the sort of 5 pillars of self-care and actually what that means, and we can explore that in a sec. But I think having that awareness, and maybe just not just awareness about what burnout is, but actually the awareness of you and like what's going on for you and your body, your mind, what your energy is like at different times of day. Like, what do you need to be able to not just function, but actually to thrive? And I think, you know, it's such a powerful thing when we can take ownership on that as well.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because ultimately we are in charge of our own lives. Like, we are in control, and nobody's going to come to our rescue. Nobody's going to make us feel better. It has to come from within. And so the process of healing, it has to start from within, and then it all just filters out. So yeah, so I work, I'm an aerialist, so I work primarily with fitness, because I find that that for me works really, really well. Moving my body helps, not only to keep myself strong and keep my body supple and etc., makes me feel well, but it's something that I do for myself that actually benefits me in the long run. So yeah, so doing things for yourself, like making sure you feed yourself like you love yourself, so you're eating right foods that will help you get the energy, getting those dopamine fixes where you can. All of that really, really helps to get you better, get you feeling better.
Yeah, because I think it's so easy, isn't it, when we're busy, of just to go for those quick fixes, whether that is the, you know, the quick hit class, which actually might not be helping your body, or it might be the quick energy snack fix that isn't helping your body or your mind. Talk to me about your 5 pillars, because I think that's just, it's just so useful to have a reminder of what we actually should be focusing on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really, really aware that when you're in that state of burnout, and the suggestion is do some exercise. And that's
Yeah.
like pretty much the last thing you feel like doing, because
Yeah.
you're so exhausted, you have no energy, that getting told to do exercise just doesn't feel that particularly appealing at the time. So the first thing that I normally suggest to my clients is to get themselves organized, kind of see where you are in your life. What is chaotic? What chaos can you remove? What parts of your days through routine can you implement, so that you are releasing a bit of the decision making,
Yeah.
stress, anxiety of what are we having for dinner, what do we need to do next, just having that kind of organized in planners, out of your head and down where you can see it and not have to think about it. That has been an absolute game changer, because it has cleared space in my brain, in my mind, and it helps my clients to clear that space so that they can focus on other things. Now, planning and organization are kind of one in the same, so they're like my pillar 1 and my pillar 2. So organizing is just kind of seeing where you are, and planning is planning how you can then move on, get yourself into a good routine for that.
Yeah.
Then, mindset, it's really important to unpick all those kind of stories that you're telling yourself about, or that I was telling myself about. I have to be strong regardless. Well, that wasn't serving me at all. Just going through personal development. I read a lot of personal development books, and I always recommend a lot of personal development books, because it's just reprogramming your mindset to show that you are able, because I know that when I was in burnout, any kind of self-confidence that I ever had was totally gone. Like I could not even fathom being able to do anything properly.
Mm-hmm.
So mindset really helps to build that confidence from the inside out. And then the other two are nutrition. So you can never out train a bad diet. So nutrition is really important because, you know, what we ingest has an effect on how our body reacts to it. Things like caffeine, chocolate, processed foods, stimulants, they give us the short spikes in energy, but then we have the huge crash and it's not sustainable. So eating foods that are that give you that energy throughout the day rather than in a short burst will make a world of difference. And obviously once you start eating right and feeding your body correctly, then your hormones balance out, your brain fog disappears, bloating, your gut health, it's all connected. It's all connected. And then lastly is movement. And movement doesn't have to be like me, you know, swinging off aerial silks and stuff. You know, movement is just fun and moving and walking, kicking a ball, just anything that makes your body move to get those endorphins, so that you're feeling better. And through movement you can find a fantastic community, you know, through our community. Well, we support each other, we push each other, we help each other, we check in, and we call each other out on our on our stuff that we should really be doing.
It's so important. I think community is one of those things, isn't it? And actually, you know, realizing that you're not on your own through these journeys, but also having a community that is outside of your family, because you don't have the emotions attached to it. You don't have that judgment of buckle up and get on with it kind of comments or opinions or phrases that can sometimes surround with that. So having that community of people, women who are on that same journey, that are experiencing things, that have all of those plates still to spin, but actually just exploring different ideas. I think the power of conversation can be, and that's why I love doing this podcast, is amazing, because it's like, there are other people doing this. Maybe I could try that way of doing it. You know, there is no one cookie cutter approach that works for anything, whether that's self-care, whether that's business growth. There literally is no single cookie cutter approach. There is no blueprint for success. It is about feeling what is good for you and what your body needs and what your brain needs. And the way we can do that is by utilizing your frameworks and working out how we can tailor those into our own lives. And I think that community, that conversation is so important as well.
Yeah, I mean, the community has been like a lifesaver, in particular for the accountability piece, because, you know, as somebody who doesn't often put themselves first, or generally never used to hit the top 10 of priorities, I used to wish and hope, oh, I wish I could do that. Or, you know, one day I will do X, Y, and Z. And actually having the accountability when I have spoken and when my clients speak their wishes and their desires, as a community, we're like holding you accountable so that you keep those promises to yourself. And ultimately, you know, mothers, women, we hold the family together, and however we're feeling trickles down and impacts the whole family. So it just impacts friendships, relationships, your children, they're seeing you, your friends and family, they're watching you, they can see that you are pulling yourself out of a deep hole and that it's not completely impossible.
Yeah, kids are little sponges, aren't they? They totally kind of lean into what you're doing, not and sometimes what you're saying, but normally it's what you're doing, isn't it? Kind of actually seeing you in action. And it's I mean, we can talk about this for hours on end, I think, because I think it's one of those things that, as we said right at the beginning, we know we should be looking after ourselves. We know that we should be, moving and eating right and all the other things and doing the stuff that makes us feel good. But when we're time poor, or when we are having to do all the things for other people, I think one of the things you mentioned earlier was around organization, and actually that sort of first pillar of actually let's look at what you are doing. Like, where is the chaos? Because I'm guessing, and I hear this all the time as well, like time is the biggest hurdle, I suppose. Like, how do you help people manage their time, or create time, or find that time for themselves?
Oh yeah. Well, this is always the biggest challenge actually, because when we really start to break down your the time and how the time is spent, we realize that there's so much wasted
Yeah.
pockets of time throughout the day. And obviously we don't want to fill each pocket so that we are so busy that we can't do anything else. But we can utilize those pockets of time a lot better. One of the things that I now know I could have done better when the children were younger is to save time. I used to do a lot of the things for them, you know, and so I was required a lot more of the time than I really needed to be. So one of the ways that I found to claw back time for myself was to hand over responsibility of a lot of the household chores, or things that the children can partake in.
Mm.
You know, I don't have babies. I've got a 17, a 14, and a 10-year-old. So they are very capable of doing a lot more things for themselves. And it wasn't until I kind of did this time analysis that I realized how much time I was spending on doing things that everybody else could do for themselves, and it just turned into a bit of a habit rather than a time saving tip. The other thing is when we go through this exercise and we pinpoint those lost pockets of time, things like scrolling, things like binge watching the telly. You know, I find little pockets of time within somebody's day where they can, what I call, habit stack. So you can be doing two things at once, kind of, because we can never
Yeah.
really concentrate on two things at once, but you can do two things at once to claw back time, save time. You can set up processes within your day, your life, your week, that help automate a lot of the things that you're doing. For example, meal planning, that was an absolute time saver for me, a lifesaver, because now everyone in the family knows exactly what we're having for dinner, and they can all take responsibility for helping to get it started. So I have a lot more child-free time, if that makes sense, to do things for me, to and then when I am with the children, I'm more present, and I'm more because I'm not thinking about, oh gosh, I've got to do the food shop,
Yeah.
or I've got to do, because I've used the time that I have allocated. So time analysis and time blocking is usually the first things that we see with the client.
Amazing. There's so many different ideas there, I think, that, we can take into our daily lives, we can use in business as well. Because I think, you know, there is that kind of classic phrase of like, everyone has the same amount of time, which I don't really subscribe to, because we've all got different family setups, children are of different ages. There is stuff that we have to do. But there is also a lot of time where we do get to choose how we're spending that time. And if we can utilize it more effectively, more efficiently, like the meal planning, like the time blocking, I've used this phrase before, but actually it takes 23 minutes for our brains to switch from one activity to another. So if you're getting a notification that pops up and then you go back to whatever it was that you're doing, your brain actually doesn't get back into it for another 23 minutes. That's a lot of time wasted. And I think there's so many things, but I think also, as part of that, it's really important to have rest time where we do give ourselves permission to binge watch on Netflix, but we know we're doing it and we're happy to do it, and we give ourselves permission. We're like, okay, this is my time where I'm just going to slob for a little bit. That's okay too. But I think so. It's not about creating a kind of, as you say, super busy, like let's fill all of those pockets. But I think it's just being aware of how we're spending our time, isn't it? Of kind of going, actually, I'm choosing to do this. Or is there a different way that I could do this? I'm choosing to do that. Or maybe there's a different way that I could do it. And I love that you just explore those different options with your clients, because, yeah, time is one of those things that it's hard, right? Like it is busy. But I think for most of us, And especially as business owners, we like to live a full life. And that's okay too. But we don't want to live a full life to the point of it leading to burnout. We want to live a full life that allows us to be present, as you said, with the things that we want to be present with.
Yeah, absolutely. And like being present with my family was my number one goal, because I realized that I had spent so much time disassociated, just frustrated by everyone's presence around me, because I was just so overwhelmed that that I wasn't a very nice mum to be around. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like, super happy dappy all the time, but I'm a lot more approachable, and I enjoy the time that I have with my children a lot more now, because it's more meaningful. It's rather than me rushing and barking, and I'm there and I'm experiencing the situation, whatever situation, with them.
And tell me about the ripple effect that it's had on your children as well, because I know we've had previous conversations that actually they see you in a different light, but also the independence that you've helped them with and creativity and all that kind of stuff has been quite a big impact, which you probably weren't expecting when you were really focusing on healing yourself.
Absolutely not. I was not expecting it at all. I went into this journey thinking that I was a really bad mum. And throughout the journey, I realized that actually I'm a great mum because I wanted to be a better mum. That's why I'm a great mum. And the relationship that I have, so I've got a 17, a 14, and a 10-year-old. So I'm well into the teenage trenches. And that was
Yeah, looking
really
forward to that one. I'm not quite there yet.
it
We're
was
teetering on the edge.
really, really tough. No one tells you about all the exterior influences that your children are going to be subjected to. I'm here building them up mentally. You're great. You've got, you're brave. You're this. You're that. And then somebody will say one small thing to them, and it completely wipes out everything. But when I wasn't 100% aware of what was happening at home, I was missing a lot of those signals.
Mm,
I was missing a lot of those, and the children just didn't come to me because they were really afraid of how I would react. I might have been happy, or I might have just flown off the handle. Who knows? It depends on the day. So communication within my family, within my children and I, it's just complete night and day, completely different. There was a lot of shouting before, there was a lot of slamming and me like, storming off or whatever, and the children actually copying that kind of behavior. And now I think the other day I raised my voice only because they were quite far away, and everyone just stopped and freaked out. They're like, oh no, what's going on? Because there isn't that shouting, there's that clear communication, there's
yeah.
trust, there's it. Yeah, me being calmer has enabled everyone else to be calmer.
And I love that you've kind of got them involved in some of the daily chores and all the rest of it. Of actually, that is what they're going to need in adulthood as well, isn't it? Like you're teaching them some real strong values as to be independent, you know, take control, I suppose, of actually what is going on in front of them and being aware of that family situation is really powerful.
Yeah, for me, I wanted to control everything. Like I felt
Mm,
like I needed to control everything, so that it would be perfect. And obviously, perfection just doesn't even exist. And why was I stressing out about their wardrobes being untidy? Like there are worse problems I could be stressing out, but that used to be a huge stressor for me.
yeah,
So handing over that responsibility to them, you maintain your wardrobe. If your clothes are creased, okay, that's on you, not me, because I folded it all nicely to put it away.
yeah,
That has given them a sense of responsibility and pride
yeah,
in their things, and also um, they have that confidence that they can do things themselves. I remember once while I was in therapy and I was talking to my therapist and I was explaining that I cannot let my daughter, who was probably 12 at the time, use the oven. Like I was so petrified of her getting burnt or getting hurt that I had made it into like this huge thing. And
mm,
she said to me, "What's the worst that can happen?" And I was like, "Well, she'll burn herself." Yeah, how many times have you burnt yourself? I was like, a lot. They have to learn these things. Obviously, I'm not going to go and hold her hand to the flame, like learn
yeah,
that it's hot. But now she does a regular weekly baking session, and it's
I
great.
love
We're
that.
all thriving off her lovely, healthy cookies that she does every week.
Amazing.
So they won't know unless you let them try.
It's a really powerful shift, I think, isn't it? Of, when we feel like we're struggling, we feel like we need to control everything because that's our mechanism of just holding on to stuff and feeling calm, feeling in control. But actually, the calmness comes from letting go, and that can feel like the hardest thing in the world. If people are listening to this and going, oh, maybe there's a little thing here that I need to kind of explore, where can people find you? Like, how do they get in contact and just have that conversation with you?
Well, I guess the main place I hang out is on Instagram, and it's at Selfcare with Wendy. And yeah, generally that's where you can catch me. I tend to be on there every day, sharing my journey and sharing tips on how you can help yourself through self care.
Amazing. And I know you've got a fabulous kind of free workshop that you offer as well, which is, I think, 5 steps to avoid burnout in a really, really simple way. So we'll make sure we get the link that into
Absolutely.
the show notes as well. So yeah, as I said earlier, I feel like we could have this conversation all day. And I think hopefully this has just given maybe a little few nuggets of thought, but also definitely some golden nuggets on how we can not only just create time, but actually the power of getting other people to take responsibility for stuff that they probably should be taking responsibility for anyway.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to chat to you, Wendy. And I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you, Sarah. See you later.